any specific questions you have, I'd be glad to do my best to answer them. Otherwise, they're there for you.
Okay, any financial questions? All right, moving on to new business, Eagle Scout project.
Daniel Nielsen, Eagle Scout here in Williston, is looking to do an Eagle Scout project. He talked to me a couple weeks ago, and he was hoping to come to this meeting, but he had he had a busy weekend between prom, and his mom is the advisor on the prom committee, and he just wanted to be a little more prepared to come and present his project. So we'd just like to table that till next month.
Okay, I guess Beth, you have that noted, just to add it to next month's agenda. Okay. Number 2, ice machine.
So we have as you know, we have a contract with Ice Kings, and they provide an ice machine at Blacktail, or they rent space to put an ice machine at Blacktail. With this summer, with the construction and everything going on, I visited with him and proposed the idea of maybe potentially moving that ice machine to Kota for the summer, with it being a new park. And he at first thought maybe, and then he kind of circled back to me and said, you know, I'm really struggling to come out ahead on that machine. He says, you know, if on a holiday weekend it's really, really warm, I maybe do pretty good. Other than that, he goes, I'm not really making much money. And then he asked if we would ever consider buying that machine and servicing it ourselves, or take care of it ourselves. And he sent me a proposal, and his proposal was to purchase the machine. He wanted $25,000 for it, and then he also offered or proposed a service agreement. I'm of the opinion that I would reject both of these ideas. His service agreement was a little higher than what I had kind of thought we talked about. He's looking at, depending on where we put it, if we put the machine at Blacktail or Kota, Blacktail would be $745 a month, a flat fee, and Kota would be $965 a month. And I'm just doing the math in my head, and it feels like a lot of money for this. I think there's some other options out there. But I love the idea of having the ice machine out there. It's an amenity that we have. It's a service we provide. But I think there's some other options as well if he decides we don't want to. I think that the reality is he's probably going to pull it out and maybe not bring it back. But I think there's some other options out there. But I did have that on the table, and like I said, it's my recommendation that we don't purchase it, and try something else. But I know that, like I said, we've gone through this every year, last couple of years, to get it in there, and I really like having it out there. So I just wanted to make sure you guys knew what was going on and where we're at, and not going to unless I'm advised otherwise, I'm not going to re-sign a lease with him, and I'm just going to tell him that we're not interested in purchasing this machine at this time. Said, unless anyone has any other strong opinions, I still going to make it a goal to get ice out there. There's some other vendors out there that I think are an option.
I was just gonna say that was awfully handy. I mean, and I get it this summer with all the construction going on, but boy, it was sure nice having ice out there.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, there's another vendor who's there's another ice vendor in town. His dad has a house out of Blacktail. I think he would be an option for something. So I think there's still a possibility. I just think we're gonna probably end up moving on from this one. But like I said, it's been nice, and we've had out there, so I want to make sure you guys knew what was going on. Next up, skid steer quotes. Talked about it a couple different times over the years. Our skid steer is older and it's low flow, and we're in need of a new one. I'm actually I had Carter go out and solicit quotes, and I'm kind of gonna let him handle this. He's the one that drives the skid steer a lot more than me, and you guys get tired of hearing just me talk, so I'm gonna put someone else in front of the mic and have him be on the spot.
Okay, good morning, guys.
State your name for the record.
Carter Harris, Parks Foreman. So I was tasked with getting quotes for skid steer for prices. I was able to go to 4 different places in town. I wanted high flow for the different attachments, some that the highway department already has, so we'd be able to use those. Something I also looked at switching to was also just hand controls. The one we have now is hand and foot controls, and it makes for kind of a long day of plowing snow and spreading gravel. So I went to 4 different places. I had each one of them give me a quote for wheels and tracks. We don't use track or situations with tracks all that much, but I was just kind of curious on what the prices were. They ended up being about 15 grand more for each model, which I don't know if it quite justifies what we do, but it was nice to see. So I went with more of the wheeled options. Bobcat, John Deere, and Caterpillar, they were all pretty much the same machine. They came back in the same options and everything. Kubota was a little different. Their hand controls, they only come in one configuration. It's one that I'm not familiar with. I know how it works, I just have never ran it before. So I had them put in a foot control option. It's basically what we have now, but that was the one I knew how to do, so that's why theirs is a little lower. There's a few other options that they didn't have with it. Bobcat, John Deere, and Caterpillar, those 3, because of we went with the hand controls, you get more features with those packages, a little nicer cabs. Keyless start, so you don't have to worry about taking a key, you can leave it. Everybody knows the code, you don't have to worry about losing keys with that one. These 3 also come with a rear view camera. As if you know, running skid steer, the most pain is trying to see right behind you, and I think with the new parks and everything be a little tighter in the camp spots, I think it'll be nicer to avoid accidents with that camera, so I thought that was a nice feature. The only major difference I saw with the 3 was the warranty. Bobcat came in with a 2-year, 2,000-hour warranty. Caterpillar came with a 4-year, 2,000-hour warranty, and John Deere, the salesman, said since we are not going to hit 2,000 hours in 2 years, he did stretch that to a 4-year also. Other than that, they were all, everything came with the same controls, everything was pretty much the same thing for these 3. Like you see, Kubota came in the lowest, John Deere and Bobcat came within $50 of each other, and Caterpillar came in at the highest. So that's what I found out. Any questions on those?
Did you ever consider that JCB? I
No,
don't even know if there's a dealer around here.
I did not.
They have instead of crawling up over the bucket into the front, they got it's just one oversized arm on the right hand side, and then the in and out doors just.
Yeah.
So if you're working by yourself, you don't have to. You're not supposed to, but I know you lift the bucket up in the air and then crawl in and out. Well, that can be dangerous. So I didn't know if we even had a dealer around or not for them.
I don't even know if we do have a dealer for those here in town.
Is there general equipment? We don't.
Are we using this for mowing purposes on the trail also, maintenance of the trail, or is it just primarily around the yard?
As of right now, we use our skid steer for pretty much everything we can. If we can get the attachments for it, we try to use it. I have looked into a mower. We don't have a mower right now, but it would be nice to be able to go to different parks, because right now we only have a tractor with a brush mower, and that is a lot more difficult to bring over to each park. We have to contact highway to bring it over and stuff for us, so.
Well, I'm just looking at maintenance of this long trail that they're putting around Blacktail alone. I would imagine we're going to use a skid steer on that, Jeremy.
Yeah, that's correct. This, yeah, we would definitely be using this for trail maintenance, no question about it.
And I fall under the tracked skid steer for that type of work, because you will bury a wheeled skid steer on some of those hills and on that trail.
Mr. Ludlam, can you speak to where we are in budget for all of this?
Yeah, it would be my intention or my request that we would use this out of our master plan budget. We'll go through that we'll go through where we're at pretty thoroughly. That's the sheet that I handed out to you prior to the meeting. Currently, right now, if you look at the, starting at the top left there, and then it says that on the top second main column there, it says PMP budget, and that was our 2022 numbers. And then on the total, if you look at the bottom of it, initially we were budgeted for 31.7 million, 31.8 million. The remainder of that money, the intention was to, or some of that remainder money was to buy equipment to maintain and utilize what we're going to make, the improvements we're going to make in the master plan. And then, so if you kind of find out, if you go all the way to the right to that purple column, that's a combination of what we've actually spent and then what we have budgeted in the current parks right now. So if you look down at that bottom red line there, we're just over $30 million is our estimate, or is the pace we're currently on what we would spend. So I feel comfortable with this dollar amount that we'd be able to stay within our budget for our master plan.
I don't have a lot of experience running these machines, but I have run a tracked skid steer versus a wheeled skid steer, and it's a dramatic difference. And it would be a shame to not be able to take care of our improvements in all these parks with a machine that may not be as ideal as a tracked one. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I agree. I think a tracked vehicle is the way to go.
But you're the guy running it, so what do you think?
Personally, I think we can get away with the wheeled. I think the initial cost, the maintenance on tracks is going to be more. I think tracks, because we do work in the park so much around the campsites, I think tracks end up tearing everything up more. So I think, even the little beach work that we do, I have been able to do it with the wheeled. I mean, it would be nice for tracks, but I think wheeled would be more ideal for every situation that we use.
So are we getting rid of the other skid steer, so you would have a wheeled one?
I would.
But you're wanting high flow for even that type of work?
I think so.
So you would recommend wheeled?
are the wheeled ones articulated? Do the wheels turn in situations where you don't want to tear things up, or do they?
No.
Yeah, I don't know. Nobody really gave me an option for those. I don't think they make them all that many.
We have both at our company, and we found that the tracked doesn't work as well during the winter to move snow. And to go across grass, as long as you're going straight, the track will not show signs of let's say indenting the grass or denting the turf. It's when you turn with a track, you're going to tear up more than you will with a wheel. But they'll both tear up things to a certain extent because those wheels are as hard as a rock. I know if you ask Kelly Everson, he'll swear by a track. I pretty much swear by one also, but wheel does work, and wheel works really well around the yards, around like up the warehouse and so on and so forth. Moving snow is probably the biggest issue because you slide more with tracks. But mowing and going out and working on hills and slopes and so on and so forth, track is much safer and works much better. And it does cost more. I will admit that.
And just a side note, they do make tracks for winter. They're kind of red looking. They're a lot softer. They'll grip more on like packed snow and whatnot. But then you got 2 sets of tracks and you got to change them out. But one thing, you never have a flat tire.
That's exactly right. That's right, Barry. Also, those two sets of tracks, if you're only putting 2,000 hours or less on, you wouldn't wear out your tracks as fast. You'd just have two sets of tracks because in the wintertime, we'd probably wear our tracks out more than we do in the summer because you're sliding, you're spinning so much with those tracks in the winter. And so if you have better tracks, the softer and so on, you wouldn't wear them out as quickly.
Carter, with the machines that you have presented to us, which one really lights your fire?
I've personally only ever ran Bobcat. The John Deere is, I think, also right there, so I would look at either one of those two. I've never really ran tracked machines, so I don't really have an opinion on the operating benefits of it. I just kind of know just the basics here and there, so I've only ever ran wheeled, but that's my recommendation.
And the Kubota, you said the controls were different? Is that what you were?
Yeah, so the other three, you can switch to your different types, your ISO and your H pattern. You can switch those on these three. Kubota only comes with one, and don't have much experience with that type. So the only other option for them would be the old school foot control. So that's why those two are separate, kind of.
Well, what's the wishes of the board?
Well, Steve brought up one good point too, is if you're running down a long area to get it, if you're driving the skid steer a long distance, the track is 10 times smoother than the wheel. You aren't shaking yourself out of the cab. So if you're mowing the ditches and you're trying to maintain things at the different parks, on rougher ground, prairie and such, or roadsides, the track is 10 times smoother. But you can run out of the tracks, and then you gotta learn how to drive the tracks. It's not an easy, just an overnight thing.
One thought is we could give them the latitude to start at 80,000 and you guys go get what you want. I mean, the good news is no matter what you pick, I mean, I would say within reason, Bobcat, John Deere, they're not gonna be worthless in 2 years. So if you want a tract in 2 years, you can trade it off, whatever, but that's my thought. If you want to go tract, you have that latitude with an $80,000 approval, but whatever you want to do.
I would make that a motion, Bo.
Okay, is there a
I'll second that motion.
Moved and seconded for $80,000 approval.
Yeah, 80,000.
Any discussion for that motion?
Well, just going off what you just mentioned, in a couple years, you could trade off the wheeled one without high flow now and then get another one with high flow with tracks in a couple years, and you'd have both. So
They make them every day, I'm told.
I'm sure they do. Yep.
Any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please. Beth.
Steve,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
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 Okay, motion passes. Happy hunting. Okay, looks like we're gonna add item 4, David Hill Septic.
Yeah, David Hill reached out to me. He owns property out at Blacktail. We're pulling up on the map right there. That lot 102 is David's. In order for in Williams County, in order to have a drain field, you have to have at least 1 acre. I don't have, we're not having an easement. I don't have an easement in front to present to you, but we have done easements in the past before to allow people to go onto parks land to get to that full acre. And I just wanted to check with with you if there is any stipulations you wanted me to put on this when Karen and I work through it. David is, it's not, he's not putting it in this month. His goal is to get the drain field in by the end of this construction season, and then I think next year he's moving a house onto that property. So it's not anything that's pressing that I need action today as far as approving anything. It's more just, it's been a while since we've done an easement for anything, and just seeing if there is any direction specifically you wanted me to include in that, any requirements. Otherwise, I'll continue moving forward with it.
I don't see any problem with it. I mean, we've done these before, and I don't really see any reason to wait on it. It would make perfect sense if we just made the motion to allow Jeremy to work with Karen and get the proper easement together to allow David Hill to have a septic that goes on to county property.
Okay, is that a motion?
Yes, sir.
All right. Second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Just request that they mark put tracer wire on the line and everything, so we know exactly where it's at in case of further construction, especially that road back there. Who knows, someday we may need to improve it, so.
Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Brad,
Yes.
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 All right, motion passes. Moving into discussion items E, Community Health and Wellness Fair.
Williston Parks and Rec worked with the state of North Dakota to host a community wellness fair. I helped set up, but then I had another commitment I had to leave, and Carter manned the booth for me the whole day, so I'll let him talk about that.
So yes, we were at the ARC for the first 3 hours, or all 3 hours from 10 to 1 on Saturday, March 22nd. It was a good little event. There was probably about 450 people came through. I was able to spread the word about Kota opening back up and having our grand events at Lookout also. There was quite a few people that still hadn't heard about Kota, so they were pretty excited about all the updates that were going on. Lookout was I got very good at explaining where Lookout Park is. Everybody that saw the board had to ask where it was at, so they were pretty excited. A lot of moms were excited to find a new park to go to. Other than that, it was pretty harmless little event. Pretty good.
March 22nd. And then moving on, the next thing in the concerts in the park, we will have concerts in the park this summer. It will be a little different. Technically, in order to have a concert at McGregor, you need to get approval from the director of Game and Fish, and they don't really like to approve that. Kent, our local DNR, our Game and Fish guy, has been pretty lenient about that, and he's actually come to every one we've ever had and stood in the back and just kind of watched. But last year he asked that we didn't do any more concerts at McGregor. So it's a wildlife management area owned by the state. Any large public events, like I said, need to be approved at the state level, and he asked that moving forward, that last year be our last year. So we're gonna listen to their rules, since I don't really have a big choice. With that being said, right now we have 3 events scheduled. Friday, July 25th at Little Egypt, Boulder Dash will be there. Saturday, August 16th at Epping, Springbrook, Project Constellation, and then on Saturday, August 30th at Kota Dam will be the Mooncats. Boulder Dash is from around here. They've been around here a long time. I actually just saw them in Minot this weekend. And then Project Constellation was in Blacktail last year, and they are out of Grand Forks. And the Mooncats, the very first year we did this, they were at Kota, and they're out of Bismarck. We're still looking to add a couple more. but that's where we at. Moving along with this, I have checked in with the trailer stage we purchased, or we are purchasing. We are scheduled to receive it no later than June 20th. It's kind of why we've pushed our dates back a little bit this year, just to make sure we have that. So I'm excited to get that, and I'll keep you updated as we move forward with other concert dates.
Okay, any questions? Okay, item F, master plan implementation update.
All right. Well, first, I just, as I said, that like we talked about a little bit before, we have this spreadsheet created. Give a lot of credit to Lindsay. Thank Lindsay for keeping me on track with this and us working through it. I think it does a really great job at explaining what we have budgeted, what we've spent, what we're anticipating spending. And this is up to date as of including it does include the numbers that Ryan and Jay Dunn will present today. So those numbers are in there as well, updated with what they came back at. Like I said, we're like I said, of those two numbers I showed you, I felt really good that we're on a good pace. We have, like I said, we were budgeted for just under 32, and we're sitting estimated just over 30 right now. One thing moving forward with this, I know it's these original budget numbers were made in 2022. It's my intention to this July when we talk about budgets moving forward to discuss where we're at and where we are moving forward. Things change over time, and just make sure we do a really good job reevaluating, what we have spent and what we want to spend and what we want to get done. I'm moving a couple things with that as we before we move on to Blacktail in this master plan. One thing it's my intention to do is to push the pace on a couple things, not included in the Blacktail project is a community building. When we originally were working through the numbers, our budget numbers our estimates were higher than our budgets at Blacktail, and the building that we were putting in to stay within a budget, I was not comfortable with that building. It was too small, and I was not comfortable spending money on a building that I didn't think would fit our needs just to have a building there. So that building is not part of the presentation today, but moving forward, it's something that we're gonna push the pace a little bit on to get designed and get out for bid, specifically because bids have been coming good for everything. The other thing at Blacktail, not the trail all the way around is not included in what he'll present today. There were just elements of it that were not ready to be designed. There were parts that were a little tough to get there and just not ready to be designed at bid part. So we're going to push that through really fast to get that bid this year as well. And then the third thing that I want to really push through is at Epping Springbrook Dam, that road going in. I'm hoping to design and have that bid out as soon as possible, with the idea that that's the biggest thing at that park, and it's the most important thing. I know I've talked before about how steep it is and how difficult it is to get out of, and again, just with getting favorable bids recently, I think those two big projects, the building and Epping, if we could get them bid and get a price on those, it really will help us decide what we want to do with spending money the rest of the way through. So more to come on that. We're gonna, like I said, we talked about it yesterday in our meeting. I'm pushing the architects to get those designed and get them out for bid as fast as we can, just to take advantage of good bids. So that's what I have there. At this point, I'll let Ryan Anderson from J.E. Dunn give you an idea where we're at with bids for Blacktail.
Good morning. Thanks for the introduction. Ryan Anderson with J.E. Dunn. So we took bids for Blacktail on April 1st, and I'll just touch on the scope a little bit, just for good measure. So the entire south shoreline, I guess, is getting totally redone. We have, when you pull in there, you have an area called the main area, which is along the shoreline. You go a little further south from just right south of there, and we've got a group area, which is a pretty neat layout, kind of a cutting edge campground layout deal where you can put three campers kind of facing each other with a common area in between, and that all has sewer and water and picnic tables and all that. And then you keep going to the west, and then you have the beach area that's getting redone, and then you keep going further west to there, and that's the primitive area getting redone. There's a bypass road that'll go in along the south as well to keep traffic from going through the campground, and then of course a bunch of other amenities with bathhouses and comfort stations and volleyball courts and playgrounds and swimming beaches, and so a lot of really nice improvements. Bids is a very good time to be bidding. We continue to see projects coming in well under budget, and kind of a weird time for us. We're trying to figure out the market, figure out what to do with that. Inflation is still up, and interest rates are still up, and costs of commodities are up, and tariffs and all these things. Labor is still in shortage, but in this western North Dakota market, there's subcontractors and trade partners trying to buy up work right now, and we've been seeing it for the last 6 months. And so we're hesitant to lower things because, you know, there's just a lot of uncertainty too with the economy and the administration and everything that's going on there. But so we got a lot of good participation. You know, if you look at this document that we have here, you could say that every line item represents a scope of work, and there's about 15 or 16 there, I think, scopes of work, and we got 40 or 45 bids, something like that in there. So that's, you know, an average of 3 bids on each scope. Not every scope had 3 bids, but some had 5, some had 2, some had 1. But when it comes to how the bids came in compared to budget, as we were finalizing and wrapping up the design phase, our estimates, when compared to how the design was shaping up and getting the full program in there and what the county wanted to do, was being estimated at 11.7 million, which was more than was allocated for Blacktail Dam. So Jeremy and the design team came up with some things to reduce scope, and came up with cuts of about $1.1 million. So we got the budget down to 10.6, so more in line with what was allocated for Blacktail. And we identified a series of bid alternates, which is a typical thing to do, you know, kind of a safety lever in case things come in a little higher than you thought, or if things come in a little lower than you thought, you have some opportunity to add some scope back into the project as well. So that is the second page we'll look at, the alternates that were identified. But I'll go there next, so if you want to go back to that other page, I'm sorry. So 10.6, and without any alternates, if you look on the bottom, we're just a hair under 9.1. So I would call that good news because, you know, some of the big things that were cut, like Jeremy was saying, was the building, the community building, and that wasn't really programmed into the level that the county and the parks would want it anyways. So, and with the alternates identified and being under budget and things, would you agree, you're not losing or not getting anything that you wanted? So all in all, things are in good shape, I think, and will allow, you know, allocation of dollars to other things, and you'll still get, you know, the full park out there. So, what this sheet is what we call our cost summary, and it, depending on what you do with the alternates, I'd say it's still fluid, because what we want to do is if alternates are accepted, we want to update this sheet. And the bottom line would be what our guaranteed maximum price would be for Blacktail. And right now it doesn't include any alternates, but essentially what we've done is on the left, you have a description of the scope of work. You have our proposed trade partner, which in every case, we're recommending the low bidder. Sometimes we don't, and we talk with the decision makers about that, but we didn't have any of those type of discussions. Everybody is the low bidder that's being recommended. And since April 1st, we've been going through the bids and leveling things and scoping and making sure the bids are complete and pulling this all together. So 9.1 is the base. If you want to go to the alternate page, we had 6 alternates identified. Fencing around the county shop building. Some 6-foot wide nature trail, which the wider stuff is stuff that goes through campground areas. And then the narrower 3-foot stuff is going more through off the beaten path areas, you know, not in, it's just really a means of travel. And so the wider stuff is the stuff that's like right in the heart of the use areas. The Puncheon Bridge is part of that walking trail. And there's a low water, or there's a water crossing area where that crosses, and there's the Puncheon Bridge that's designed is very nice timber, large timber framing, and we can probably do it less expensive, but if this is selected, we'll at least have dollars accounted for that, and the design team and Jeremy and Lindsay can figure out what wants to be done there. So that's what number 4 is that's the bridge to get across the water crossing on the 3-foot wide nature trail. And I want to say with the 3-foot wide nature trail is that this is essentially the scope of this trail will take you from the main and the group area up to the beach area. And so it doesn't go up to the primitive area. It doesn't go all the way around the lake. And so there's portions of trail where maybe some of the savings will get used to bring the trail all the way around the lake, but that's not what this is. This is just to get from the main group area up to the beach area. And that is where we have a water crossing there. And then playground equipment at the beach campground was a safety lever, a budget lever to pull. So that's the value of adding a playground up there. And then there's number 6 is so we have what we call a 4-pod comfort station and a 2-pod comfort station. And a pod is basically a toilet and a sink and a shower. And there's going to be 3 total comfort stations out there. Down in the main and the group area, you have a 4-pod and a 2-pod. And then up at the beach area, you have a 2-pod. And so at the 4-pod area, there was an alternate to add some additional square footage, about 200 square feet, with a double door on there for some storage. And so that's what that $50,000 is. So I will see if there's, I want to touch on schedule real quick too, before I turn it back over to Jeremy. I think he's going to give his recommendation on the alternates. So schedule, just to recap, when I was here with you last time, we talked about keeping the boat ramp open at all times. And so we've got that worked into the phasing and things. And then the main area and the group area is basically, if this is approved, we're planning to start May 12th. And we will be done by Memorial Day of 2026. So the main area and the group area will be open for next season. And for the most part, we'll be done this year, but there'll be some landscaping and some things to clean up in the spring of 26. And then the beach area and the primitive area would, along with the nature trails, would be in 2026. So the entire project would be complete in October, September of 2026. Any questions? Okay.
Yeah, one question, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
The Puncheon Bridge crossing.
Yeah.
Is it designed to handle spring flooding and ice issues? Is it high enough? Is it far enough out? Is it, because almost every year or every other year we flood pretty decently, and sometimes the ice comes up with it. and it does push and pull and
Yeah, that's a good question. Have you talked to Brett about that? Do you know? I can't say for sure. I mean, it's beefy and it's anchored. But like you said, I mean, you get ice pushing and things and that's gonna move some stuff. So I don't know the answer.
Brett, our architect Brett and I have discussed it a little bit. We have not come up with a final solution on it. We've talked about, you know, the possibility of at some point, do we need to, you know, late in the fall, do we need to move it and pull it to a side? What do we need to do? So it's been a topic of discussion. We know about it. We haven't landed on a solution yet, but we are aware.
okay.
So is it high enough where a boat can travel under it then?
No, it's kind of back on one of the fingers. And so there's no boats getting back there, but it is like, you wouldn't want to walk through it, you know, there's some cattails and marshy and
With the exception of like the spring, if we get a heavy, you know, water event in the beginning of the year, with the exception of that, we're looking at less than a foot of water where we're going, if any, you know, a lot of the time.
Okay, Jeremy, one more thing. Can we make sure we put a post of some type so that ATVs aren't trying to go across this thing?
We definitely, not just for that bridge, but for all of our trails, we will need and have been working on a plan to keep motorized vehicles off this. The intention for our trails is to have it be non-motorized,
Yeah.
and all our trails. That's the intention. You know, motorized vehicles are meant for roads. That is our theory out at Blacktail. We're going to move more and more towards hey, if you're going to have a vehicle, it stays on the roads. It doesn't. You're not free will to go wherever you want.
Okay.
okay. You want this podium? Yep. Okay.
So yeah, you know, at this time, I'd be looking for an approval of the gross maximum price to include the base bid, which was, like he said, just over or just right at about 9.1 million. And then with the add alternates, it'd be my recommendation that we approve alternates 1 through 5, and then we deny alternate 6. Starting with alternate 6, the reason why I would deny that is it really is a small. It's just a 200-foot storage area on the very end of that building, and I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's a lot of money. I just don't think we need it. If you're familiar with Blacktail, that this shower house comfort station is going west of the current boat landing. And so very close to that, we currently have a really nice shed that will stay in its spot. So we have some storage right there already. I think this was originally thought up before we intended on keeping that storage. We do have a very similar, almost exactly same thing as what they want to do or what is proposed in item 6 at Kota to the north. And it's nice. I'm glad we have it at Kota on that north side because we don't have any other storage there. I just don't think that's necessary at Blacktail with our shops right up the road, and we got a storage building right next to this. So the other things, I think they're all things we originally wanted in, and we just took out with the idea of trying to make sure we hit budget. And now that we're well under there, I think all of them would be great additions, and it'd be my recommendation we approve numbers 1 through 5.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, first of all, let me express my gratitude to Mr. Ludlam for your attention to detail on staying under budget. Speaking to you privately, you've done a phenomenal job. So, Mr. Chairman, I would recommend we approve the GMP of 9.1 with the add alternates of 1 through 5 with a rejection of 6.
Okay, is there a second?
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Discussion? Roll call vote, please, Beth.
Bo,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Corey.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Bypass road for Blacktail.
Just want to give you an update that we did apply for the special road fund and we received that grant for $300,000. Really appreciate Dennis Nelson for opening my eyes to that grant opportunity and then giving me some really good advice that I think really helped us get that grant approved. So really nice that it's, you know, something that we're doing anyways and just $300,000 that we got. Kind of like free money. You gotta love it. Yep. So that's all I got for that.
All right. Parks update.
Okay, last couple things. I'll just run through a couple things really quick. Blacktail Dam, we do have a beaver problem again. Quite a few of them out there. The last 2 times the state trapper has been out there, he's had traps stolen. And so last year he just pulled them. He was pretty upset. Like, who's stealing my traps? I'm trying to help you guys out. So I did call. What? Yeah, well, maybe. So I did call him. He actually called me back right before this meeting started, and I didn't answer it. I just sent him a message. I'd call him back later. But I'm sure I'll get him back out there, and we'll get that taken care of. Another
Jeremy.
thing having to do with Blacktail is with this year, with our construction, you guys had requested that I talk to the health department and find a way to get as much camping as possible out there that we still, within reason, that we could have for primitive or boondocking sites. I did go down and meet with the health department in Bismarck. They have a letter recommending what they're going to do that they're holding on and not sending to me yet because there's a bill, Senate Bill 2385, which would change the way that campgrounds are licensed. That looks like there's a good possibility it's going to pass. And if that happens, it turns into something where political subdivisions would self-regulate and would no longer be licensed through the state health department. We still have to follow all septic things and some other things, but in general, just to be licensed, they no longer would be licensing us. So that would now be at our discretion for how many we want. They do have a letter prepared for how many we're gonna have, and they gave me an idea of that and where we could be. So I feel pretty good either way. That's gonna be the same no matter how that Senate bill turns out. But so we should be good. We're gonna add, I think we're gonna have 1, 2, 3, probably we're gonna add right around 14 or 15 boondocking spots to try to get. We'll be up about 25 camping spots that people will have at Blacktail this summer. That's all I had for. Oh, the one other thing, pricing in regards to the master plan. It's our intention that this year, even though Kota Dam is opening new, it's our intention that we'll just keep our pricing for camping prices the same this year, and then do a study. We've started to look at comparable campgrounds, whether in North Dakota or in other county parks. In neighboring states, and next year prior to Blacktail opening, maybe that's something we're going to want to revisit and come up with a pricing plan moving forward. Other parks updates. Epping Springbrook Dam, I mentioned before, the State Department was going to require us to have potable water there this year. Same thing, I met with the health department at the same time, told them our situation. Actually, I've since talked to Northwest Rural Water, and they have a major project coming through the Epping area where instead of us having to contract out and get it all the way to there, which I did go out, get pricing from multiple places, looks like it would cost us about $80,000. Instead, they're going to bring it right to us, and we're just going to have to pay the $500 or $5,000 hookup fee. So saving taxpayer money and so I talked to the state. Again, they have a letter of recommendation on what they would allow, waiting to see how this Senate bill goes, but that letter from their indication is going to be favorable to us. And then if it passes, then we regulate ourselves. So either way, it looks like we're going to be able to get through this year, and then we'll get rural water in there next year when we do construction on it. So that worked out well. And I guess the one other thing I would just mention is that in a couple weeks now, paddlefish starts, and we are going to be actively involved with a lot of other departments to kind of help out there. We're kind of in charge of parking management. The parks have that's the commitment we have. I've got some people from the Lions Club. They're going to help volunteer some time, and then our staff is going to be out there a little bit. I think that's all I have. Unless you guys have any other specific questions about parks. I guess Epping Springbrook Dam, we are chomping at the bit to get the buoys back in the water. Just just a matter of, you know, they really can't be in there if it's gonna freeze, and we just wanna be, those batteries, it'd be tough on them. So we're just holding off, but we're ready to go. Wanna get them in soon. The warmer weather's itching, but gotta be smart about it too. Can't burn out those batteries. And otherwise, like I said, unless you have any other questions, that's all I got.
Okay. Nobody has anything else. Next meeting, May 20th. So we will adjourn.